was earlier reporting, it sounds like the U.S. is already taking action. The USS Carney there going after some of these things with their Aegis systems.
Jamil Jaffer from the National Security Institute. Jamil, thank you. Let's check in once again with Jamil Jaffer. He is the executive director and founder at the National Security Institute, former associate White House counsel to President George W. Bush. Jamil, the Iranians are said to be fearful of a direct Israeli strike on their own territory. If that's the case, why would they gamble and launch these cruise missiles from their territory? It just puts a big target on their backs, does it not?
You're exactly right, John. It's a real question why they've decided to go down this road. The Iranians have made a long sort of history, a long career of using proxies in the region around the globe. They use groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, other terrorist groups, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, where they back them, the Houthis in Yemen, and conduct these attacks. Everyone knows this, the Iranians. The president has called out the Iranians for these attacks on American soldiers many times. The problem is when they use these proxies, they are able to avoid getting a direct response oftentimes. Now they're putting these Israelis in positions of having to respond to them. It's an interesting decision by the Iranian leadership. We'll see now whether, in fact, the Israelis do take a response and whether the U.S. backs them in that response and what that looks like. I think, to be honest with you, John, I think it's all going to turn on whether these missiles are knocked down, how many they've sent, and whether it's a real serious attack. If it's a serious attack and missiles get through and Israeli civilians die, as we talked about earlier, I think you will see a very serious Israeli response, and Iran has put themselves in a very bad position.
This is one of the most telegraphed attacks that I've seen in recent memory. U.S. and Israeli intelligence officials have been talking for a week at least about the likelihood of this attack coming even this weekend. So it would seem like Iran expects some kind of a response. I've read where if they hit, for instance, the Golan Heights, which Israel seized after one of the wars, and it's not a huge population center for Israel. If they hit the Golan Heights, would that be considered sort of an acceptable strike that Israel wouldn't necessarily, pound Iran into pieces for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you're right. I think that the Iranians must feel the need to respond, whether for domestic purposes or international purposes. They feel the need to respond, and therefore they've been telegraphing this for weeks. It's very odd. You don't usually see the president of the United States come out and say, I expect an attack within 24, 48 hours. That suggests they're getting either really good intelligence reporting, or the Iranians have telegraphed very clearly, now the strike is coming, be prepared. That allows the Israelis to prepare, allows them to knock these missiles down. It allows the Iranians to say, we did something. We'll see if this is not a large-scale attack or against, like you said, the Golan or another part of Israel, not the population centers, not Tel Aviv, not Jerusalem. It may very well be the case that Israel doesn't feel the need to respond, and we just sort of move on from this. But I do think if a single missile gets through, if a single Israeli civilian dies, Israel will have to respond, and it will be ferocious.
All right, so, I had a question, and I just lost it. Again, it's a waiting game. We have to wait and see what happens, how many of these missiles get through and where they are targeted.
That's exactly right. I think that is the key question. Is Iran trying to actually kill Israelis? Are they trying to just make a point that, hey, look, you hit our guy. He's a senior Quds Force commander, the commander of the Lebanon forces. We're going to now push back and demonstrate to you that we're mad. Or are they really trying to start a war with Israel? I think that question, that calibration will be something that comes into play over the next few hours. We'll see. And we'll see how successful the U.S. and Israelis are in knocking down some of these missiles, as you're